Hi, welcome to Dharma.TV, show number 14. Today I want to discuss, or begin to discuss problems, and I want to talk about the nature of problems. Um, when we talk about problems, we talk about something specific. This is a problem, that's a problem. I have a lot of problems. My friend has a lot of problems right now. That's sort of thing. Those are familiar words. Now, but what we're really talking about is that the circumstances arising in emptiness, and we are referring to them as problems, and this brings about a habitual response on our part, or perhaps on the part of others. This is the way we deal with problems, and but what we're doing here is we're not seeing them. As soon as we see them as a problem, we're not seeing them as something that's temporarily rising in emptiness and will soon dissipate. Now, it may be that we say, "Oh, well, yes, but I have a problem that has stayed with me for, several years, or 5 years, or 10 years, something like that." Well, then we are not seeing this circumstance correctly. We are seeing something here that is not. We're seeing problem where we should be seeing something that's rising in emptiness, something that appears to be a difficulty for us. It appears to be a difficulty for us. So this brings about the nature of our mind. The nature of our mind, as we know, if you've been following these broadcasts or shows, the nature of our mind is clarity and cognizance, completely clear. Our mind has no thoughts of its own. Now, it reacts, because it's cognizant, to all the various things that rise in emptiness, but it has no thoughts of its own. And the way that we can tell is that when we meditate, and we have tranquil abiding in meditation, and we have silence and clarity in meditation, we have no thoughts. And thoughts enter, drift in, and drift out. But we have no thoughts at that time. The true nature of our mind is no thoughts. So if we train ourselves in tranquil abiding, we then find that we have this, we can bring about a will, not having any thoughts. Very handy if we're about to become angry or annoyed about something, or we've already become annoyed or upset about something. We can remind ourselves tranquil abiding, and we can bring that about again and bring ourselves back to not really having any true thoughts, but just having thoughts rising through the clarity. Now, that thus is the nature of mind. We can say that then the nature of mind is truly our core being. So our core being then has no thoughts of its own. It responds and reacts to the appearances in emptiness, the forms of emptiness that appear to us, and we label them with conceptual concepts. We say problem, beautiful, ugly, pleasant. We say things, difficulty, interesting, I don't like. We use those concepts on simple things that are rising. But the reality is that it's simply one more thing that's rising, and things are rising constantly, and we are liking, disliking, choosing, when what we should really be doing is just let them rise and let them dissipate, understanding that our true nature of mind is really just clarity and the ability to see all these things, to understand all these things, to have some sort of comprehension of these things if we choose to. So clarity, core being is clarity, clear. Our core being is clear. And what this allows us to do is to see all things then as temporary, temporarily moving through the clarity, temporarily noticing things. The old Tibetan Buddhist idea of, if something is driving down the street, if a truck is driving down the street and you recognize that it's a truck by the sound, but you don't look at it, you don't think about it, you don't have anything other than just the sound at that moment, then it goes by you, and you've been you've been untouched but untouched, and in this way, all things rise in our life. All things rise in our life, whether these are things that we say we like or dislike. These are things that are meaningful to us or meaningless to us, but all things are rising. And just like the truck or the bus or whatever drives down the street, we pay attention to it but don't pay attention to it. We can do this with all our thoughts, everything that we see, everything that we hear, everything that we smell, taste, touch. We can allow all forms in emptiness, all things in emptiness that appear to us, we can allow them to dissipate away as they came. They came from nowhere, and they will go back. Or let's say they came from emptiness, and they will go back into emptiness. So they are indeed temporary appearances to us. And even if something lasts 5 or 10 years, it is still a temporary appearance to us. Now, which brings about then, so what are we saying here? We're saying that the core being, the true nature of our mind, is clarity and cognizance. This wonderful, vast clarity, which has no beginning or end, and simply exists and allows us to experience all things. All things without necessarily being attached to them. If we become attached to them, we have a point of view, and when we have a point of view, our point of view then blocks us from the experience of simply the experience of it. We then, with a point of view, have to decide whether we like it or don't like it, whether it is meaningful or not meaningful. But the reality is that we are simply there to experience or here to experience, and yet this is not what we do. We try to manipulate emptiness as it comes to us, when in fact we should simply be experiencing it. This would be being at one with our Buddha nature. We can say that the nature of our mind, our core being, is our Buddha nature. And if we simply experience this, then we'll find that this is the best way that we can live this life. Now, which brings up another point. We all have a understanding, in some sense, that this life that we're living is temporary. We were born, we turn into an adult, we become older, and then we pass away. So we can say then that this life is temporary. It's a temporary state life. And yet it's not how it's viewed at all. In many sectors of society, it's anything but. It's seen as permanent, and when it's over, it is no more. And yet we can understand it as temporary. So we can say then that life is temporary. Now, if we take that understanding that life is temporary, and I truly ask you to attempt to have become, in your meditation, to have a profound understanding that life is temporary. Now, if we have that profound understanding that life is temporary, it changes many things. If we understand that life is temporary, where are the problems? If we understand that life is temporary, and that the life of all other people that we know is temporary, all other people on the earth, they're all these temporary lives. All the creatures on the earth, they all have temporary lives. They exist in the form that they exist in temporarily. Now we say, oh, well, This one is more temporary because this insect lives for 3 days, and this other creature lives for 100 years. And so we say one is more valuable, but really having the ability to have experience, which is really what we are, and to understand that it is temporary manifestation for us, that life is temporary and all life is temporary. That is the true nature of our life. Now, when we begin to think about that, we begin to think to ourselves, we begin to understand, become aware of, why would we then take the life of another creature? We would be taking the temporary life, or ending the temporary life of another creature within our temporary life. This goes for human beings fighting with each other. In this temporary life, this is what I did with it. I participated in war. I became a person of that nature. I took from others. I did all these things which are dualistic things and which are very hurtful to other beings. Considering that our lives are temporary, why would we ever take that time then to turn around and hurt another temporary being? Why would we do that? If we have an understanding that life is temporary, then we have a completely different understanding, and we're happy with whatever we experience at those moments. So if we have quote-unquote problems, these problems just make us work harder to become enlightened. Now we can take these things that we call problems and we can say, oh, they're such a burden that I can't deal with it. So I will drink constantly, or I will take drugs constantly, or I will do all these things. I will indulge in some habitual behavior as a human being that allows me to not think about it, not have a present idea of it. Yet the reality is that in this temporary life, it doesn't make any difference what you do. It's all temporary. And the only thing that you can really do for yourself, the only thing that you can really gain for yourself, is happiness and enlightenment. Now, so the many issues in our life then begin to melt away when we understand the temporary nature of life. When we have some sort of profound understanding of the temporary nature of life. We think about our jobs, we think about our families, if we have a family, we think about our children, if we have children, and they have a temporary life too. And we would like them to have the best temporary life as possible. We would like their experience to be a wonderful experience, as we would like all those we love to have a wonderful experience. But if we find ourselves, through our meditation and our generation of compassion, if we find ourselves feeling love and reflecting love towards every appearance and all beings, then we are experiencing love constantly in our temporary existence. This is very important. This is very, very important. If you are experiencing love constantly, then you will be love. You will manifest as love. What better thing could we possibly do for ourselves than in our temporary existence than to manifest love for all beings? Emptiness, the nature of emptiness, the movement of emptiness, which I've discussed in past broadcasts, the movement of emptiness is based in love. We can say that emptiness is comprised of love. There may be times when it does not appear to be love, but in fact, it is love. And the movement of emptiness, as all things, is what we are experiencing as so-called problems. But if we understand that life is temporary, these things that we call problems, these situations, these ideas that we have of taking from another, of hate and self-hatred, the dualistic notions, anger, jealousy, those self-hatred, those ideas or responses that are rooted in self-hatred, if we think that life is temporary, we don't want them anymore. If you think that your life is temporary, what you really want to do is get busy and sort it out so that you find happiness as quickly as possible. This is the reality of our life. Now, I would ask you to do this then. I would ask you to begin in your meditation to meditate on the temporary nature of your life and the temporary nature of everyone's life around you, and begin to see the preciousness of life and to treasure life and to treasure a state where you experience all other beings and all appearances in a state of reflecting the love back into emptiness. I would ask you to do this. I would ask you to do this in your meditation. So, this is all for this broadcast, and I will come back and talk about the temporary nature